ladies, gentlemen, everything in between, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Oil Motorsports. My name's Ian. Today we're going to be working again on a beautiful 1991 Mazda Miata project in the making. Today, hopefully, we're going to do some doors. Get these doors done. Both these doors used, they're sort of manual doors. The doors that came on the car were electric. The weight savings compared to from the electric doors to the manual doors is not that much. But what I can tell you is that it's still weight savings. Trying to get all the weight that I can out of the car. That being said, the doors I got are definitely a little damaged. Take a close look at that. I'll show you how to look for them. I'll show you how to fix them as best as you can. Now, doing Bondo work is not one of my strong suits, so I try to do it as little as possible. But because some of these dents on these doors are a little bit bigger and they're right on the top of the door, you're gonna notice them pretty good. So, again, I'll go over how to look for that and how to fix them. So, the issue is with the driver's door, there was a gigantic crease that's right on the edge. Now, fixing spots that are right on the edge, right next to the seam, is very, very difficult to do. I tried to do it, and I couldn't get anywhere close. So, had to abort that, had to pull the trigger on a couple doors, so here we are. As you saw last video, we got the wheels fitted, car's on the ground, everything's torqued down. I look at this thing, it's great. Now I can tell you that as soon as you turn the wheel anywhere left or right in the car, it's gonna hit something, but we'll get into another video about fixing all the issues that are gonna happen with that, as well as probably installing a steering rack spacer kit so that it well, not steering rack spacer, more like bump stops, so that I don't accidentally turn the wheel too much and smack something. That being said, the rear will be easier to fit, but I'm going to do all that when I start installing the wide body kit. So, what's the goal for this weekend? Because it is Memorial Day weekend, so I actually have 3 days to work on this car. Very excited. Now, the weather is going to be very poor, but today, pretty nice. So I can have my other car outside while I work on these doors. Hopefully I can get these doors done, and then everything, the doors and the hood primered, so that tomorrow I can work on the fenders, putting them on, fitting them, putting the doors on, fitting them, making sure everything's okay, and doing all that stuff. So let's get over a look at the doors. Today we have our Yeti sippy cup. It's a little early, so we just got some coffee in here, a nice local place called The Coffee Shop, and they're great, nice small business. So I'm gonna enjoy this while we look at the issues with the doors. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so step one of trying to figure out where your dings and dents are really is, one, being in a very properly well-lit area. You can see I have nice straight lines for all my lights here. Wow, actually, I just changed a bunch of settings on the GoPro and this looks great. Anyways, you want something where you're gonna have nice straight line lights. If you don't have that, you can always just grab a nice work light, right? They sell those, you can get them at Harbor Freight. They're nice extendable lights. Let me see if I have one. Oh yeah, I do. It's right here. You know, this is like 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. If I bring it back over the car, you know, to be able to see a dent, it's like, wow, look at that. So you can see right there, it's very flat. Now you'd be able to see a dent if it was really wavy, right? So I've marked a couple dents on here already. Oops, daisies. I've marked a couple dents on here already because they're really easy to see. Now if you take a look and go across, you can see how this light right about here, see how it distorts right there? Might be a little hard to see. but there's a crease right there. Go over it again. Very nice. So now we got the one there. Another one I marked, I remember, because it was pretty big here, was right on the top of the door here. This was the one that really concerned me, because again, this is, I mean, you can see this is where the mirror is, and where this is right at the top of the door, nice flat sheet metal section. It should make this a lot easier to repair than if it was a very contoured area. This is nice even curve here. But if you look at the light here, you can see right there some big old dents. See how the light just distorts around them though? Well, it's just like right here, and it's like, wow, that looks really nice, right? Soon as you get across it, you see all the little dents there. Now again, let's say you didn't have lighting as nice as this, and you had your nice little light here. Well, let's take the light, we'll move it across the door. A little bit harder to see. Let me get on the dimmer setting here maybe. There we go. A little bit harder to see, but you can still see it. How it distorts around the light there. So now if we go over this door's a little bit more dull, right? Still, so you got the chip guard on there, but it's definitely way more dull. And if we go around the door, you see it's a lot harder to see those lines because the clear coat is starting to fade on this door. But there are only a couple little dings and dents on this door. It's really not that bad. We can actually see there's a couple right there, but the edges and everything else are pretty good. A little bit of a door ding right there. So not too much work to be had in this door. There's another one right there, but not too much work to be done on this door. This is the door that I'm really concerned about, which is funny because this came off of a really clean car and this came off of a not very clean car, but oh well. Actually, hold on a second here. Maybe I can bring you over to the other door here that I tried to repair. And it's gonna be really hard to see here, but oh, ooh, my knees. Did you hear that? Ouch. You can see there was a crease here. You see right where the crease was because that's where I was tapping it with the hammer. If we can go around the backside, nope, light's not good enough. Any Hoosier? Yeah, there was a crease that was right here, which bent the whole corner of this door in. Now, why is this so hard to repair? If we look at the backside here, let me grab a light. Boop. We look backside here, we can see, boop, there's a seam right along here where the outer metal, the outer skin, which is this, and the structure of the door, which is this, meet, and they are folded over each other and glued together. Now, by fixing this seam or this edge here, we are now fighting the inner structure of the door, which is a lot harder material than the outside of the door, and the outside of the door. That makes it very, very difficult, and also very difficult to get straight, because let's say we get close and then we Bondo over it, well, then the quarter panel might not match up perfectly. So we gotta Bondo the quarter panel, and it becomes a very, very big mess. Now, this is the driver's door as well, which is the side that I did the new quarter panel on. So do I really want to get this as close as I can to then have to do a little bit of body work on the quarter panel when I said I already don't like doing Bondo work? What do you think the issue or the solution is there? Yeah, gonna have to junk that door. Sucks, but it is what it is. So again, let's get into this. Sorry for the rant. Let's get her done. All right, so what are we doing here and why? Well, here's what I got. A door. I guess you probably could have figured that out. So what we're gonna do before we apply Bondo is we're gonna rough up the metal as much as we can, Because the Bondo, we want something to give it to be able to stick to. If we just applied it right on top of this paint, it's gonna end up peeling off. It's gonna end up not adhering properly because we've got you know, nice, smooth, even surface here. Now down here we've got our rock guard. Now, do we need to take this down to bare metal and everything else down here? No, we just need to sand it so it's smooth. So we can take 120, probably 180 grit more likely, and just sand this smooth, and it'll be nice and easy there. So I'm gonna end up priming the bottom of the door. Now, is it necessary? No, not really. But well, I'm probably gonna end up priming the whole door because it's just kind of what I think I'm gonna do. Because there's some deeper scratches in the clear coat, but you know, from here, like I said, the areas that we really have concern on is we're just gonna rough them up with 120 to 180 grit, and go from there. Yeah, let's get to it. All right, see that I look like an absolute mess, but I was wearing a mask, I was being safe. We've sanded everything down. Take a look here. We've got the bottom sanded down. Want to make sure it's all smooth and flat. Want to make sure we get all of the blue off of here, so then we can make sure everything is nice and smooth. I ended up starting with 80, then moving to 120, then moving to 180, and now this is all nice and smooth. Still have the OEM primer on here. We didn't sand down the metal because a lot of the stuff that, or if I were to strip this and sand down the metal, I would need to prep it differently, and I want to be able to spray the door in one complete, you know, kind of like that. So that's what I did. Roughed up the areas that we're going to need to apply Bondo. Like I said, we're doing that because we need to have something for the Bondo to stick to. Some people recommend something as rough as 40. I don't think you need that. You can do something just about 80 or 120, and everything sticks just fine. We go over to this door, and it's a little bit of a different story. Now, again, bottom is sanded all down nice and even. There's a couple spots though I had to sand down to bare metal. Why is that? Well, there was a couple little paint chips in the door, and I could either fill those with a little bit of Bondo, or I could just sand it down to bare metal and then kind of feather it out. And that's the option I chose because it's gonna be a lot better to just end up feathering it out instead of trying to just fill it with Bondo. So that being said, there was an area that I missed in order to show you kind of what that looks like, except you're not gonna be able to see it on camera, so that's cool. We have a couple different options here of products we could use. We could either use a more traditional style body filler called Rage Ultra. This is stuff that we used to use in the body shop because this stuff, while it was more expensive than your 3M Bondo, this lays a lot flatter and it is safer on the skin than the 3M stuff in case you got it on you. The other thing is this stuff is a lot better once it bakes on. The 3M stuff is, if it bakes, well, a lot of times what it'll do is it'll shrink, and then you'll still be able to see the spots of Bondo where you had put, because while when you do the body work it'll look smooth and everything else, once it ends up baking in an oven, which is how paint shops, you know, bake their cars, they're baked at about, well, temperature depends, but usually about 100 and 120 degrees, I think. I don't know, I don't remember actually, probably closer to 90 now I think about it. Anyways, when the car bakes, this stuff wouldn't shrink compared to the normal 3M Bondo. the other product we have here is called Metal Glaze. This is meant to be put directly on metal, so you don't need to use something like a what do you call that? A self-etching primer beforehand. Now this you would. This stuff also sands a lot better and sands a lot smoother than this stuff. But obviously a little thing of this is just about as expensive as a gallon of Rage Ultra. So that being said, on this entire vehicle, I'm not really gonna need that much filler. So I'm gonna opt to use this because I like using it better than the Rage. And that's just a matter of personal preference. Do what you want. Again, I'm not a body man, I'm not certified. I'm just going off of things that I remember from the body shop. So that's my recommendation. But again, this stuff is very expensive. So let's say, you know, you got to do a nice skim coat on a door or something because the door's got a big old crease in it or something. That's going to be more something for your Rage Ultra. And then maybe your last layer of Bondo that you do, you use this because then it'll come out a lot smoother. And you can do that perfectly fine once this product dries. So just some food for thought. Each of them have their own hardener, right? So this bigger tube goes with the bigger container, and this has its own little tube for the smaller container. These give you, surprisingly, more than enough catalyst compared to the putty. So hopefully you shouldn't run out. Mixing this stuff is pretty simple. Now, I haven't used this stuff in a little while, so I'm gonna make sure that it didn't separate here. Nope, perfect. When this stuff gets really old, what's gonna happen to it is it's gonna kind of become one conglomerate, and it's gonna end up catalyzing by itself, even if it's in a sealed container. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing a project, and let's say you've had a gallon of this sitting on the shelf for 2 years, it's gonna end up getting chunky and it's not gonna spread smoothly, and you're gonna end up regretting doing what you're doing. So buy product new before you're gonna do a project, or if it's only been sitting for a few months, just use it, it's fine. The longest I've had something sit on a shelf and still be okay is around a year. I'm gonna say a little bit over the year mark. That's when it starts to get hard or harden up and become a bit tacky, because this should come out of here like goop pretty much. So the other thing is, and actually I almost forgot here, do yourself a favor, wear some rubber gloves. It's something that I like to do to keep my hands clean normally. Now if I'm trying to see something smooth, I will take the gloves off and everything else, but applying filler, once this stuff hardens, it kind of sucks to get off your hands. So again, keep that in mind here. Make sure your clean sheet is clean. Start with a nice clean sheet because they are tear-offs. So, you know, just keep that in mind if that's what you're using. And then take some of this stuff, and this is a nice like compressed spring container, and whew, smell that's pretty good. So wear a mask again like I normally do, but because I'm talking you through it, I need to keep the mask off. But put a mask on, and then we will mix enough filler in here. That should be good. Now, remember, you don't want to waste product, so you can always, oops, daisies. You can always mix more instead of, you know, mixing too much and end up having to throw it out, because again, this stuff is very expensive, so try not to waste it. Take a little bit of catalyst. The way it wants you to do it per the safety data sheet is have it in a perfect circle and then do a line down the middle, Oops, this is actually separating a little bit, so just mix it up. This is obviously not a perfect circle, so we're just gonna kind of roll with it as it is. I'm going to kind of make a guesstimation here. If you add too much, it's gonna harden too quick. If you add too little, it's gonna take forever to harden. Or the worst part is, it might harden on the outside, but the inside will stay, what's it called? Stay soft. So when you start sanding, then, oh no, you gotta end up applying another layer and whatnot here. So, yeah. Mix this up. That's what, when your tube starts to separate, it'll get a little watery. So yeah, just mix it up a little bit just by moving it around. And then from there, we'll just kind of, oh, that's a little much. Get my, oh man, how did I get this in here? There we go. Make sure your mixer is nice and clean, because if it's not clean, it's going to end up leaving streaks in your Bondo when you apply it. But then just evenly mix until it is one color here. Not that hard. This is not really rocket surgery here, but you can see how it's all one color now. It's all mixed together. We don't see any of that blue in there. You see a little bit on the board, but that's because the board is white and it stains the board. So from here, we go and apply. Now you want to make sure the area you're applying stuff is nice and clean. So you go in and raid the medicine cabinet so you can get some isopropyl alcohol, mineral spirits, whatever you want to use. Clean this all up, make sure there's no dust, you know, a little bit. A nice clean rag here. You can see it's pretty clean there. Let me take our filler here. Oh man, yeah, I had to wait too much. It's already starting to tack up. That sucks. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, now for real this time. When you're applying your Bondo, you just want to scoop some up in the on your little spreader here. And you want to apply it. Come on now. And push down. You want to make sure it gets in every little nook and cranny here. And don't want to have any air bubbles in it. Until when I'm pushing down really hard here. So it lays out nice and smooth. Alright, so how do we know if our filler is ready to be sanded? Well, here's the thing. Got a little bit of filler left on here. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna give it a good old poke. Can I poke it? Is it still a little warm? If it's still warm, what happens, the reaction is exothermic, which for science people out there means something. But for me, it just means when this is reacting, it gets hot. So if I can break this off, I can look in there and see. Yep, if you can see that, probably not. I looked in there and see and feel, is this still a little tacky? Is it ready to be sanded? Is it sticky? Unless it's anything but absolutely rock freaking solid. then sand it. But given that it's only been about maybe, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, it ain't quite ready yet. So still a little bit tacky, so I wouldn't sand it yet. So we're gonna wait here a little bit and wait until it's done. So. All right, so Bondo's dry. Took a little bit longer because I definitely did not mix this right. A little too, before I had too much, now I had too little. So, but it dried. So, what are we doing here? Are we going to dig into this? No, we're not. What we're gonna end up doing here is we're gonna end up nice and lightly. I like using a sheet of paper that's already kind of toward the end of its life, just because I'm not very good with Bondo, so I try to ease into it. If you think you're gonna get this all done and all beautiful and perfect in one layer, you're wrong. It's not how this works. You're gonna need multiple layers. You're gonna need to block it by hand to get it nice and perfect. So usually, I'd say on average, it probably takes between 2 and 3 coats to really get it perfect. Now, I'm not looking for perfection here because, again, it's going out of car that's gonna get probably dinged up anyways, and rock chips and whatnot. So I'm doing this just because I don't want to see that, you know, nickel to quarter size ding that's right there anyways. So here's what we're gonna do with it. We're gonna use nice and even movements, going up and down and across, not going the same way for too long. Feather our edges out so that they meet up with the sides. And it's gonna take something that went from being this big to being a lot smaller. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over, I already did one of the sections on the other door. The Bondo didn't want to stick for a couple of the other sections. I'll show you over there, but it's gonna take something that's gonna go from being about this big to being much, much smaller. I'm gonna bring you, oops daisies, I'm sorry. Clumsy camera work today. I mean, something that's about this big. You know, this is only about the size of my finger, really, and you can tell that this was much, much bigger before. This was probably about that much Bondo. It's okay to put too much and then sand it down, but what you're really looking for here is nice feathered edges, right? You can see that there's no hard lines anywhere. It's not just like a square. It's nice and feathered. And when I run run my hand across it, I shouldn't feel any sort of bump. Now, how do I know I fixed this right? Well, that's where the fun part comes in here. We can take something that is reflective and is shiny, and remember how I was using mineral spirits, or you could use isopropyl alcohol to wet or to clean the surface. Well, if you want to clean the surface and also wet it, you take your isopropyl, you spray it over here, and now you can see, oh, you can see with your line there how nice and flat that is. See that? See how there's no wave in it? You see down there how there is a wave because there's still a dent there. But that area where there was a dent is now nice and flat. So yeah, now it's just doing this for all those little dings there on both doors, and doing that probably, I don't know, a lot of times. We're gonna end up doing it a lot, but that's okay. It's all part of the learning process. I'm not very good at this, so this is good practice. So I'll time lapse through some of this and hopefully maybe you'll enjoy it. Who knows? All right, so we got our second layer of body filler on here. A lot smoother than the first. There's a couple areas that actually got pretty darn good with my first time around here. Oh, wait, fly. And we're just gonna leave that as it is. We can tell literally every other area here needed a second layer. So don't go into this, like I said, thinking that it's gonna be perfect your first time, because it's not. But sometimes you get lucky. So we're gonna keep that. That was the worst area that I was worried about, so I'm actually really glad that came out the way it did. But a couple more areas on this door, and then yeah, actually all but one area on that door. So let this dry and I'll get back to sanding. So yeah, let's go. All right, well, color me impressed here because we're good. This I was able to do in one layer. Everything looks good. Did use the alcohol to spray and wet the whole door so it's all wet, so I'm able to see the waves with the lights that I have up yonder. The other one I'm a little concerned about is right here. I can't feel it, I can't see it, but I feel like it's gonna show a little bit, but we're gonna see here. If it does, it's not that big of a deal. Just scuff this up and then put one more layer on and then primer back over it. Not really what I want to do, but if I have to do it, I will. And from there, this is a really difficult one because there's a body line right here. You can actually see it pretty well. That's all nice and flat and blends before the body line, so I didn't have to recreate this at all, which is nice because remaking body lines is hard. I'm not that skilled. Another reason why I didn't want to do the door crease that's on the door over yonder is because of that. But yep, sand down the edges of the doors. There was a couple chips from people swinging open their doors and smacking stuff because they can't control themselves. This is the driver's door too. You'd think they'd be more careful. Passenger door here. Like I said, there's a couple areas right here where we sanded down to bare metal. I will need to prep those with a self-etching primer, and we will, do that. No big deal there. Probably gonna need to feather this out a little bit more because there is 1, 2, 3, 4 layers that are kind of close to each other there. So feather that out a little bit more. But everything else here is nice and smooth. This was actually pretty difficult because I almost had to encroach in here on the door handle area. The nice part is the gasket should cover most of this. But other than that, again, door edge here, because this door was pretty gnarled up on the door edge, but that's okay. So what's next here? Glad you asked. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take and go over, because I finished the top, or the top and the bottom with 180 grit. So next thing to do is go over everything with 400 grit, and then prep saw, or whatever you want to call it, wax and grease remover, everything to get all the dust off. All right, so this looks like a mess, but it really isn't. We've got our doors all prepped and they're covered, so that all I have to do is go around and trace this with a nice sharp razor blade on all the doors, as long as the tape sticks, because I'm using old tape, because it's what I have left. All that's all good. All this is all good. Hood is all prepped. Probably need to wipe it again down when I come back in here. I don't know if it's going to be tonight or tomorrow morning because it is getting late and I haven't eaten any dinner yet. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm going to let these sit because I need to get a new razor blade because it ain't cutting squat. So I'll leave you with this. All right, we're back out here. It's the same day. Well, technically it's the next day. It's past midnight, but we're back out here. Everything's all prepped and ready to go. So just gotta wipe that down one more time, wipe the hood down. Just got all that prepped. And set up my extraction fan and should be good to go. Oh yeah, and mix some primer, that's pretty important, so let's get to it. All right, so it's the next day. Let the paint dry overnight, and it's a little frustrated last night because I definitely spilled some paint last night. Unfortunately, I was getting tired and dropped a whole cup full of primer. So that was humbling, we'll call it. But you know, we learn from our mistakes. Don't do that again. Don't try to use a Miata headlight as a flat surface because it's not. Anyways, how do we do? Well, depends who you ask. Let's take a look here. Everything's all covered. We have fantastic coverage. We've got no bleed through. There's a little bit of bleed through on the hood. We'll go over that in a second here. But we have really, really good coverage. Probably could use another layer or two on that side where we had that bigger dent on the front of the door. So we'll go over that too. You actually see it just a little bit right about there. Anyways, we gotta get that covered so that it you know, paints better. But we're gonna look real close to the paint here. I really hope the GoPro picks it up. I kind of doubt that it will. We go down here. We can see, yeah, GoPro's not gonna pick it up. We can see it's definitely a little orange peely. The gun I was using, for some reason, I could not get to go above 45 PSI. Now the problem is with the primer guns, with as big as the nozzle is on there, and with the older style paint gun, they really want something that's around 55 to 60 psi, so I did not have enough air pressure to properly atomize the paint. Tried dialing back how much paint was spraying out, and that made it even worse. So I just kind of made do with what I had, bit the bullet. It is primer. I am going to sand it, but unfortunately now I need to do quite a bit of blocking on the door, hood, and other door. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Worse things have happened. Anyways, so as far as that project goes, gonna call it a day. It's only Sunday, Memorial Day weekend, so I have more stuff I can do. But for this video, I'm gonna end it here because I want to make this an hour-long video. Like the video I'm editing right now for the coilovers is gonna be a long one. I don't want to make this that long, so we are ending it here. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching me struggle. Thanks for watching all the standing time lapses again. I know they're not the most exciting thing to watch, but it's important to watch how it's done, even if I'm not explaining it, because then at least you have a visual to go, oh, that's what at least it's supposed to look like, right? Or that's what I think anyways. Very visual learner. I don't explain things very well either. I just rant and some people listen. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you like this content, give me a like. If you really liked it, consider subscribing. If you disliked it, throw me a dislike. But yeah, if you have any questions, drop it down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it. So thanks for tuning in. Just remember, go out there, get stuff done, because no one's going to work on your car unless you either pay for them or you do it. So just go out there and do it. Work on your project. Get on the road. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it done. Take it easy.